Rivers often exert a powerful influence on the economy of a country. But there's one river which actually controls the conditions of life in several countries of the world. It's 70 miles wide, yet has been seen by comparatively few people. I'll be back in a moment with the amazing facts about this mighty stream. Hello, this is Joe Cruz and the Amazing Facts broadcast, facts which affect you. We're going to continue today our fascinating study about the intelligent design of created things, which proves the existence of a divine creator. One of the mysteries of nature was described in the Bible long before it was investigated by science. Let's read about it now in Job 38, verses 8 to 11. Or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and brake up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, Hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. Now, friends, what beautiful poetic language we find here to describe the creation of the ocean. It speaks of it as being born and coming forth from the womb. God says that the cloud was the garment of it, and a thick darkness was a swaddling band placed around the ocean at its birth. And then God added, Here ye may come, but no further. Here shall thy proud waves be stayed. And do you know something? The scientists of this world have been amazed in learning the secrets of tidal actions. They still don't understand all the deep cataclysmic actions underwater which affect the tides and wave patterns. No naturalist on the face of the earth has figured out all the secrets of the swift tidal waves that move to and fro in their own mysterious ways. By the way, these tidal movements have been in perfect balance to contribute to man's comfort. I think of the mighty Gulf Stream, for instance. We don't know very much about it as an ordinary thing, but we do know that life in this United States of America would almost be impossible were it not for the tremendous warming influence of that great stream. The Gulf Stream comes up from the Gulf of Mexico and goes along the eastern seaboard and on up into the northern sections of the world. And this stream is just like a river flowing through the midst of the sea. You can see that it has a different color. You can tell exactly where the edge of it is because the water changes color there. When you look down on it from above, you can see just how wide it is. In fact, it's about 70 miles wide and about 3,000 feet deep. And it flows along leisurely on its way from the deep south going up toward the northern climb. The temperature of the water is 86 degrees when it leaves the Gulf of Mexico, and when it gets up by the Carolinas, it's still 84 degrees. The warming influence of that water actually makes the coast of North America and northern Europe to be inhabitable. Otherwise, they would simply be frozen wastelands. People wouldn't be able to live there were it not for the Gulf Stream. The British Isles would be frozen and abandoned. The maritime provinces of Canada depend completely upon its warming effect. Otherwise, those places would be left in frozen desolation. Now notice what happens as this water flows north. As it comes to the Arctic entrance of Baffin Bay, it meets the frigid polar stream rushing out to start southward. There's a titanic collision and struggle between the warm Gulf Stream and the frigid polar stream. Now what happens, friends? Well, the Gulf Stream wins, so to speak, and the polar stream dives down thousands of feet underneath and goes right on flowing southward, coming up in the West Indies during their hottest season where it cools the terrible tropical heat. Now, it was in God's plan for this to happen. But as a result of this collision, the Gulf Stream is deflected across the ocean where it goes up along the British Isles, making those places livable. In fact, some of those northern lands would be locked in eternal winter without the deflection of the Gulf Stream that creates a warmer climate for it. Now, friends, did all of this happen by chance and accident? Did these great streams of water just sort of come into existence by blind chance? Did the Gulf Stream get deflected by some casual happenstance? I don't believe it for a moment. God was behind the entire plan. Now let's take a quick look at the creatures of the sea and see how intelligence and design came into the picture. Think of the fish for a moment that inhabit the oceans. I only wish I had time for more details. Fish are constantly subject to attack. They have enemies within the waters around them and also on the outside. Gulls and other birds which swoop down to make meals of these marine forms of life. Do you know that fish have a specially constructed eyeball that's able to look in any and all directions? He can almost look instantaneously, behind him, below, on the sides, and above. Furthermore, his eye is designed to take into account the fraction of light. Yes, these fish can see 30% farther than other visual instruments because God designed the eyeball of the fish to take into consideration the refraction of light. When the oculists manufacture certain goggles for divers to wear, they also make them compensate for refraction in the water. And we think this is wonderful, of course, but God did it long before the scientists thought of it. All fish have that kind of eyeball, yet the evolutionists say that it just happened. Now, no goggles could come into existence by chance. Then why could we think that the fish accidentally developed these specialized eyeballs? In the waters of Malaya lives a fish with bifocal lenses built right into his eyes. This little sardine-sized fish is especially prized for food by seagulls. They're always swooping down and gobbling up this little fish if they can. So that little fish has to watch carefully for the approaching danger of the gulls. He must have good distant vision, but since he feeds on the microscopic larvae found in the water, he must also be very good at his near vision as well. And do you know that the Creator provided a little membrane that comes halfway up his eye, giving him bifocal vision? He can look up and see the gulls coming. He looks down and can see near at hand the little bits of life that he feeds on. Now, we think it's wonderful that skilled optometrists and oculists can perfect glasses that permit us to see near and then far away. Yet here's a fish that's been around for hundreds of years, which God made that way from the beginning. It didn't just blindly develop, friends. Intelligent design was behind its creation. But now, let's examine two Pacific Coast water birds. I can find no stronger evidence of design in nature than I find in one of these birds called the ouzel. It's a very friendly little bird that lives near mountain streams and is usually found where the water is very swift-flowing and splashy. It can be seen floating buoyantly along on the surface of the water, apparently weightless, and then suddenly that bird will sink to the bottom like a piece of lead. I mean, it'll just suddenly drop down to the bottom of the stream and begin to walk around down there, picking up bits of food from the bed of the stream. That's where he gets most of his food supply. But the mystery is that on the surface again, he comes up, and after he's taken his fill from down underneath the water, he walks over to the bank, shakes himself, and glides off on the surface of the water again like a bit of fluff. Now, it has been discovered that this strange bird has some special equipment, a muscular apparatus which can instantly exhaust every bit of air from his body. He drops down like a piece of lead to the bottom, but then when he walks out, he can breathe in air again and float off on the surface once more. Now, this is special creation, friends, isn't it? The evolutionists would say, well, he needed to have this bit of apparatus, and so nature provided it. They don't say what nature is, of course. They maintain that it just grew by some accidental development. The truth is that God provided it. He made this particular bird the way he did because he saw that it needed this for survival. Now, another Pacific Coast bird lives on a diet of large worms, which he finds in holes in the sand. Because this worm is down at the very bottom of the hole, the bird must go down into the hole to get the worm out. Now, it so happens that his beak is just exactly the right size to reach down into the hole. But when he gets into the hole, his beak is squeezed in there, and he can't open it to pick up the worm. Now, it would be a pretty bad predicament for the bird to see a luscious worm, put his beak down in there, but not be able to pick the worm up. Do you know what God arranged for this particular bird? He created a tiny flap, similar to a surgeon's forceps, at the bottom of the beak. With this special organ, he can easily pick up the worm and pull his beak out and then gobble down his meal. Isn't it wonderful that God thought of a little bird and made something special so that it could get food conveniently? Yet men say God didn't have anything to do with it. It just grew that way because the bird needed it. Nature came along and made some forceps. No, friends, God had everything to do with that development. Isn't it wonderful that we have a God like that? And if he loves the little birds and provided the necessities for their existence and their comfort, don't you think he's willing to provide everything that we might need as well? He knows even when a sparrow falls, but he loves us even more. Some years ago, a clever biologist who didn't believe in evolution wrote an article on his findings entitled, "Evolution Goes to Pieces on a Bee's Knees." Now, the author reviewed the fact that evolution teaches that when a need for a certain organ develops in any creature, the organ is produced in response to the need. Nature itself, or some blind chance, supposedly, comes along and produces a necessary organ in order that that creature might survive. Well, he cited the example of the bees. Some bees crawl into the pollen-filled blossoms, and they get all stopped up with pollen. In fact, their breathing apparatus becomes so completely clogged that they can't even breathe while they're inside gathering that pollen. Now, it so happens that every bee has special brushes located on his knees, stiff brushes which he uses to clean out his breathing apparatus when he comes out of that blossom so that he doesn't suffocate. Now, this biologist noted that if it were true that creatures develop special body parts in response to a need, the very first bee to exist did not have them. Since he did not have any brushes on his knees, he would have suffocated when he went into that flower, and the whole bee family would have become extinct right then and there. Instead of these brushes developing slowly through the ages in response to a need, God made them on that bee so that the very first bee would survive. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing any of these busy little bees flying around now. Well, the conclusion is that God anticipated the needs of His creatures and made them with all the necessary apparatus. How thankful we ought to be that God does supply all our needs in advance. The Bible says, "The fool has said in his heart, there is no God." Only a God of love and power could have made these living creatures as we see them about us today. And if He cares for the tiny animal world, He certainly cares for us too. He loves us surely as much as He loves that little bird out on the West Coast. And He wants to save us, friends. He wants to take us with Him at last to that place where nature will be in perfect balance again, and where all the curse of sin will be forever removed. Isn't that a tremendous thought to anticipate? Look at it for a moment, friends. We're going to finally live in a world where the curse of sin will be totally removed. And we'll see the beauty and the glory and the perfect harmony of it all as God intended it in the beginning. And that great disorder of things that has come about because of transgression will be totally removed, taken away, and we'll see the beautiful, perfect operation of life again as God intended it to be. And, of course, man himself will be living in harmony with each other in that day. There'll be no more wars and disagreements. But God will have a people that He'll gather from the ends of the earth and bring them together into that perfect place that's been prepared especially for them. That place will be, of course, this earth turned back into a glorious paradise. Multitudes think of heaven as some dreamy, mystical place where nothing is real. But you'll be amazed at what a detailed description is given in the Bible about heaven and about this earth after God cleanses and purifies it again. This will be the eternal home of the saints, right in this world, but it won't be the same world that you see now. And now, this is Joe Cruz saying goodbye for today.